Good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime Shares with Kevin, where we add value to people's lives, happening every other day on ebizzradio.com at around 12 o'clock, guys, for our lunchtime marketing segment, which is now proudly supported by Hollard Insurance, hashtag Big Ads for small businesses. Joining us in our marketing and communications experts, as per usual, Craig Pagely. How are you doing, Craig?
Oh, Kevin, I'm well, thanks. Yeah, it's good to be chatting again. And as you mentioned last week, it feels like it's just a day or two between these, when actually, the week's just running by.
Yeah, and this would be what, 26 to 27?
26th edition, consecutive edition today. Can you
Yes,
believe it?
because if you want some really amazing marketing content, we have our wonderful brainy expert here telling us how to do it properly. And there's already 25 episodes of this. So, and our guest who's joining us today, he's going to be, go and check it out. It's really, really interesting. But Craig, to kick off today, it's been such an exciting conversation that we've had in the last couple of weeks. But don't you want to? Let me just find myself here. When we edited our show last week, you mentioned that we were going to have a special guest on our show today. Please tell us all about that.
Oh, Kevin, yes, thanks. We do have a special guest on the show today, and I was fortunate enough to track down Mojaki Finger's details and made contact via LinkedIn, the incredible platform of LinkedIn. And Mojaki is the MD of Next Level Learning. And Next Level Learning is one of the businesses that were showcased and supported by the Big Ads for Small Businesses campaign, as you mentioned, on the back of the conversation we had with Heidi Breyer, who's the Chief Marketing Mama at Hollard Insurance. She mentioned the 12 small businesses, and I thought that there was a really perfect start today was actually having Mojaki's business on the show, and you'll get to understand why as we unpack the show and move on. So firstly, welcome to the show, Mojaki. Thanks so much for being available and for being willing to come and contribute to the conversation today.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for joining us, Mojaki.
Thanks, Kevin and Craig. I'm grateful for the opportunity and looking forward to the discussion today.
Brilliant.
So we're excited to have you with us. And as a small business owner myself, I'm really proud that we could pay it forward, and continue the momentum of the Big Ads for Small Business campaign by using our podcast series as a platform to showcase small businesses and to bring some value to the sector through meaningful conversations and marketing and addressing the challenges that small businesses face on a daily basis. Craig, before we continue, please will you give us just a bit of a touch point to the listeners on those 10 reasons why small businesses fail. And I'm so glad that Mojaki's here to chat to us, because he's going to tell us exactly what he's doing to curb that as well.
But exactly, yeah.
Absolutely.
So, Kevin, thanks. Yeah, there's so much to share in this regard, but I think there are a couple of bullet points at the end that I actually presented last week, which I'd like to reiterate today, and a couple of important points here. So, most importantly, though, is SMEs are a major driver of economic growth in South Africa, and as we all know, a huge contributor to job creation. However, it is essential to understand what can lead business failure and how to overcome these challenges or avoid them entirely. And it's vitally important for business owners to actually acknowledge that particular aspect. How do they do that? They can attend business management courses, and if they don't have the ability to run the business themselves, it's definitely important to understand who you can delegate the management function to, because that is one of the critical areas of failure, where trying to take it on yourself and actually you don't have the capacity and capability to run it. Make sure that you have a well-devised business plan that can be, most importantly, operationalized. Running out of money is obviously the biggest risk for small business. And knowing what it costs to run the business, not just from an operational and product creation point of view, Kevin, but most importantly from distribution and marketing point of view. Because if you don't have the distribution channel in place, and if you don't have your marketing aspects in place, you aren't going to get out the starting blocks, but you've got to have the capital to ensure that you can support those initiatives and activities. You have to have a well-planned marketing campaign, as I mentioned, the marketing now, so that the marketplace, most importantly, knows who you are as a business and gets to understand what your product and services are about as well. Thing that I always advocate is joint forums, joint groups, support groups, and other chambers of business, etc. But a really amazing thing here is support other small businesses where you can. Purchase your commodities and raw materials from other small businesses where you can, and keep the wheel of support turning, as reciprocity is vitally important for small business to survive.
Yeah.
Every small business is highly susceptible and vulnerable to government policies change and economic hiccups and unplanned catastrophes like COVID, the very, very state we're sitting in now. And as such, these make financial provision quite difficult. But if you do and can have financial provision in place to see yourself through these unknowns, that's an important particular aspect. And the last point here, Kevin, is that I don't think enough people ask for help when they're in a tight spot. As we mentioned last week, not stopping to ask for guidance and assistance is often an ego thing, which could quite severely impact on the success of the business. Just being able to step away from that, put the ego aside, put your hand up and ask for help. And that applies to irrespective of the size of the business, nature of business, and where a business is in its particular life cycle as well. Asking for help and guidance and assistance is a key point to note.
Yeah, thank you, Craig. Thanks for giving us a bit of a summary to that. And that leads us straight into exactly what someone did, right? They put their ego aside and said, I want to get some big ads for small businesses sort of joining me on this. And that's, welcome back to Mojaki, who's joining us from his business. Could you share the experience you had with from the moment that you were contacted by Hollard Insurance to participate in the program, where you could be selected to benefit from this amazing campaign that they're having with the Big Ads for Small Businesses campaign, Mojaki?
Once again, thanks, Kevin and Craig, and must reiterate one more time that I'm really, really grateful that I'm having this opportunity to have this conversation with yourselves.
Absolutely.
As Craig has said and has had a conversation with the brand Mama, you probably are aware of the process they undertook to select the 12 businesses. So personally, this is my experience in the journey to leading up to the production of the work. So Hollard asked, which was quite refreshing, instead of going out on some broadcast media and ask for participants to join in, what they did was they asked their employees to submit names of companies that they thought were worthy of support from Hollard's point of view. And with me, it is a friend of mine who works for Hollard. He extended a link via an SMS to apply to participate on the Hollard's Big Ads campaign. In fact, I don't think he realized the enormity of what was being offered by his employers. Yes. Because it was like, a very casual sort of a conversation. Yeah, try your luck there. And little did he know that this was going to turn out to be quite a significant experience for me and for him as well, having recommended me. So what happened is, obviously, I submitted all the details of the company. And then later I was contacted by a company, the name of which I don't remember now, but this is the company that Hollard had contracted to do the initial screening of the candidates that had applied. So basically ask questions about your business, what you do, how long you've been in the business, just basically assess the space you operate within. And obviously I took them through what I do, and that was followed up by them requesting, your company registration documents, your BE certificate, your financials, and all of that stuff. And obviously one of the key criteria was that you needed to have been in business for a minimum of 2 years. And I remember one of the questions that they asked was, how would I manage growth if I were to be elected to be given support by Hollard? So those are the type of the key questions that they were asking, so that they could understand that I know what could be coming my way and how I could be able to handle it. I mean, one of the things that you talk about, Craig, is uncontrolled growth or uncontrollable, unsustained growth. So one could look at it in two ways. Unsustained in the sense that you are not able to grow your business beyond a certain point, but also if you grow your business too rapidly, it has a demand on your assets and you may not be able to sustain your business and let your customers down in that respect. So basically that was the journey. And once I qualified and I was introduced to the rest of the Hollard team, then the production team came here, looked at my material, interacted with me once again, asked me questions about what I do, because they were trying to figure out how they were going to position it on the billboards and everywhere else. Yeah, so that has been the journey.
Mojaki, tell us, just while you're busy with it, tell us what it is you do.
Oh, indeed. So, Kevin, I'd like to preface that conversation in the following way. We have a crisis in the country. One significant one is called the COVID pandemic. But we also have an epidemic in this country, and that epidemic is poor reading, okay? If you study the Pearl's assessments in 2011 and 2016, they came to the same conclusion. Our learners at grade 4 are not able to read, are not also able to read for meaning when compared to the international benchmarks. And the reason for that is, well, it's multi-layered, but I think the reason why that is the case is because of the way we introduce children or teach them how to read. Just to give you an example, a typical classroom scenario, you have a depiction of 26 letters of the alphabet on a chart, and each letter gets assigned a sound. A typical example that you may relate to is the letter A, and children get told, you see a picture of an apple there, and the children get told, well, this letter represents the sound E, and then it gets left there. However, that's not the entire truth about the speech sounds of the English language.
Yeah.
There's 44 of them, even though there's 26 letters of the alphabet. So what we do is we I don't know if you can see the chart behind me here.
Yeah.
We introduce children to the fact that English consists of 26 letters of the alphabet. Each letter has a name. It could be an A, it could be a B, but also letters don't make sounds up until they are in a word. If I go back to the example of the letter A, it can make the sound A as an apple, as an ant, but when it comes to a word like baby, that same letter now changes the sound to something else.
Yeah.
The middle A in banana, it's a different sound to the sound in A, in baby, as well as in apple.
Yes.
When I say a word like ball, it's spelled B-A-L-L, but you don't hear any of those other sounds. It's an O sound. The same with the swan, okay? So what we do is to open up the children to the fact that a letter of the alphabet can have multiple sound values depending on which word it finds itself in. It's important because children need to learn the speech sounds. That's how they develop what we call phonemic awareness. And phonemic awareness is a critical skill for children to be able to learn how to read. So what is phonemic awareness? The ability to hear, identify, and manipulate speech sounds into numerous words of English. And one of the things that we do that is unique in terms of our approach, we let the children know that one letter can make a sound. We can have a combination of two letters still making an English sound. If I say rabbit, the double B in rabbit makes one sound, which is B, right? If I make the sound K, we also show children that the same sound can be spelled in different ways. When I say K, what comes to mind is the letter C. It can be a C as in cat, a K as in kitten, CK as in duck, CH as in school, Q as in queen. But the same letter C that children get told often in the classroom makes the sound K. Can also make a different sound called S, as in city, as in Cinderella, as in cement. So we expose children to these realities, to these contradictions of English, so that when they encounter them, either in a text or they get read to them, it does not confuse them. Because oftentimes the confusion stems from when a child says, here's a word, sees a familiar letter, but does not sound the way they've been introduced to it in the classroom. But also, because we showcase different ways of spelling a sound, we also eliminate spelling problems. It is conceivable if you teach through the old method that one letter makes one sound, and you showcase a letter like F, and you say this is sound F. So a child can spell elephant using F and not PH. But in our case, we would showcase the sound F as in one, is in PH as in dolphin, double F as in coffee, one F as in fish. So the children in the classroom from grade R grow up seeing this, knowing this, and that is how you solve reading problems. You don't restrict access to the knowledge of the speech sounds, but because also they know the speech sounds and the way to spell them, it's easy for them to read unfamiliar words. So that's basically what we do. And we call the methodology Thrass, which stands for teaching, handwriting, reading, and spelling skills.
Craig, I know you've got some good questions coming up from Mojaki here.
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the insight into the entire proposition, and I wondered what on earth the Thrass meant. So there it is. That's fantastic. So Mojaki, I want to continue the conversation by setting some context with quite an obvious statement. And you alluded to the fact that we have a pandemic, but let me just jump in there. The COVID-19 pandemic has severely impacted school calendar the past year and a half now, and many South Africans cannot afford to lose another single day of school, and particularly looking at the fact that we've got 12 million or so learners in the country annually. Every single day lost takes more than a day to get back. In fact, when I remember a conversation on the radio about 2 weeks ago, there was a really deep conversation stating that the current lockdown, if it was extended by another month, is probably going to impact, going from last year to now, a year and a half of lockdown, probably take at least 5 years for the schooling system to catch up the net impact in the economy, with the fact that, there are a lot of fallouts on the back of this. There are a lot of hiatus moments and things like that. So, it's really a dire situation. Now, added to that, then obviously is the foundational years of entry into the schooling system, especially for the number of young learners and scholars in grade 1 and 2 who clearly demonstrate a challenge and an inability in understanding the spelling and literacy. And you've just alluded to some of the mechanisms that you go through to try and help in that. But that's a real challenge for us. And so really, this is where your business comes in, because spelling and literacy are the cornerstones of education, and that learning and education does not have to stop because the classrooms are closed or out of bounds during the hard lockdowns that we're currently faced with. So in light of that particular statement, Mojaki, what are some of the challenges that you've seen at play in this regard, and how have you been able to deliver and continue to grow your business through the onset of this pandemic? And I'm sure the nature of the engagement that you deliver through your program is very much person-to-person engagement as well, particularly at the younger age groups. How has this actually been delivered, and how have you managed your business through this process?
So thanks for the question, Craig. It's a great question. I think one thing that we've all learned through this pandemic is that we have to rethink how we do business, how do we deliver some of the services, some of the content, and so forth and so on. But you also mentioned a very important point that in certain instances, a person-to-person sort of interface is key, and that is basically very important for what we do. Just to also give a sense, we do teacher training. So we are endorsed by South African Council for Educators. We run workshops for teachers. And so we have taken a decision, and I met a company through Hollard, by the way, called Zibuza. So Zibuza is like an aggregator of teachers. They offer teaching courses to teachers. And one of the things they're going to help me to achieve is to take what would have otherwise been a physical workshop. I'm going to record those lessons and make them available online. So that has got to be something that we do. And we need to do that for two important reasons. One is basically being able to continue to run workshops for teachers. But what that does also is it helps us to have a better reach, Because now all of a sudden, a person can go into the computer and decide on, let's say, a grade 1 lesson for week 1, and it will be there for them to be able to download it or to view it. So that is a very important development that we're going to undertake. However, having said that, there are challenges in terms of data. There are challenges in terms of Wi-Fi availability. Not everybody has got access to the devices. Data is expensive. And sometimes because there's been so much of home-based schooling, one loses that teacher-parent oversight when children are doing things. And for us, it's especially important because people have got to be taken through our methodology. They've got to understand it, to be able to interact with it, to be able to support children. And interestingly, we've seen, and I imagine is that as a result of the Hollard exposure, a lot of parents are coming to us asking for assistance. The website statistics are going up quite significantly, but there is that move towards parents offering lessons to their children and turning to us for help. So to answer the question is, yes, we're going to have to digitize our content in terms of teaching the teachers. But if you think about young learners, they still have to have a physical paper to write on. So the workbooks are important, because one thing that we forget when we talk about reading is that handwriting is a very important skill to learn as well, to be able to build neural patterns in the brain, to be able to make connections. So for us, we still see ourselves delivering physical paper in terms of learner workbooks, but things like teacher guides and some of the resources, we definitely have got to have some digital offerings or versions of what we offer for those resources.
Yeah, thanks, Mojaki. And yes, I think that it's still many years before we see the equitable access to same level education in South Africa. But coming back to next level learning, don't you want to just clarify for us? And I know there's a link that next level learning has with Thrass, and I know we touched on it lightly, but also where next level learning operates from and how the platform is accessed, the number of scholars that you have on the programs. Give us more insight around that.
Okay, so next level learning is just basically the registered company that owns Thrass. And the way I like to think to explain it to people is, when you go and to buy an Apple product at an Apple store, you don't necessarily know the company that's behind bringing Apple in South Africa, but you know the brand. Yes. So even when we were embarking on this campaign with Hollard, there was a serious tension in my mind in terms of what becomes what goes in the forefront. And for me, Thrass had a much stronger brand equity than Next Level Learning. Next Level Learning serves the purpose of being a company that publishes Thrass, because when you submit material for evaluation by the Department of Education, they don't know about your offer. They don't want to know about your offering. They don't know. They just want to know who the publisher is. And if Thrass and Next Level Learning are separate, Thrass can still be the methodology, and Next Level Learning the publisher of Thrass, so to speak.
Yeah.
So the way people access us is firstly via the website. People can purchase the materials. I'm talking here about teacher guides. I'm talking here charts. I'm talking here CDs. I'm talking here workbooks, all of which are designed to help children, obviously, to read, to undertake activities, the teachers for them to have a guide to say, this is what I need to be doing on the first day of the third month or whatever. So those are purchased either directly via a phone call to our office. We often interact with people directly, especially the resellers. We've got P&A, Protea Bookshop. We've got Book24, Virtual Books. We've got those resellers on our customer database. But also schools buy directly from us. So Department of Education in KwaZulu-Natal, in Northwest and Eastern Cape do buy products from us from time to time. In fact, every year they've been doing so for the last 3 years. So yes, we deal with a whole range of customers, and roughly looking at the number of workbooks we sell each year, we're reaching about 15,000 students every year. But in terms of the scale of the problem, we believe we still need to grow and grow significantly, because we're just really scratching the surface, which is why also this Hollard Big Ads campaign is so important to us, because then we are able to tell our story, we're able to reach more people, even customers that had sort of got lost in the way. They now know we are still around. Thrass is still here. We had an inquiry not so long ago from a long-lost customer in Botswana. So they're going to buy products from us this year. And I need to mention as well that we hold the rights to Thrass in Botswana, Swaziland, Lesotho, Namibia, and South Africa. Wow. So that's the agreement we have with the people who develop Thrass in the UK, and I own those rights in those particular territories. Yes, so that is how people access us, how we deal with them, and yes, the number of students we've touched.
Yeah, I just want to, like, as a general comment, I think, what you're doing is, being able to add so much value to how people are educated and how people, start from scratch. And I think it's such a fundamental. You must feel quite proud to be part of something like that touches people's lives. I think that must be a real feather in the cap kind of thing.
Kevin, so here's another factor. I've been involved with Thrass in my corporate life. Thrass belonged to Bidvest. So I started getting involved with Thrass around about 2020. And I used to attend every single workshop that was offered by the inventor of Thrass in the UK, as well as the facilitators here in South Africa.
Yeah.
And without fail, you would see people gathering or gaining a lot of aha moments. I've got a file here of teachers that we workshopped in Free State. And one of them was saying, I've been teaching for 20 years and I've been teaching children wrong. I'm about to retire. Oh, but wow. Based on what I know now, I'm going to correct it and fix what I've been, what I've been doing previously. Mm. So that for me is really, really what I feel is my purpose, to make a difference, and to make a difference in young people's life in a fundamental way. I often make the point that if people are literate, people can interact with the world, people can contribute, people can share ideas, people can become creative, people can strengthen democracy, they can become critical thinkers, they can innovate purely because they are able to access information, they are able to read. And reading is such a critical skill that is so needed in this country. So much so that I felt as my years towards leaving Bidvest approach that what I was doing in the corporate world was not really serving my true purpose. By the way, I'm a qualified teacher that never went into the classroom. So I've gone full circle, I ran away from teaching only to come back to teaching through Thrass. So yes, it really fills me with a sense of purpose when I go out there and you see the appreciation that especially the teachers get to say, my word, I didn't know this, but it also makes a lot of sense. Not so long ago, we're dealing with a school in Naturena. It's a pity the audio clip will not be so good if I play it to you now. But this teacher was basically saying, I am so happy we've got Thrass. They've only been doing it for about 4 months. She says, there are young learners that I was struggling with in terms of reading and spelling. I called their parents in. I asked them to do a few things. I showed them Thrass and what it's all about. And I told them, please just work on the spelling and on these words. I will do the rest in the classroom. She says, those kids are able to read now. and for me, it's important that we can make an impact so quickly. They have never seen Thrass for a long time, but the children get it. And once they get the logic of it, they are able to apply it. So yes, it's something that is very meaningful to me.
Yeah, Mojaki, just picking up on that, and actually something that you said at the beginning of the show, which is quite important, is teaching kids handwriting so that they can develop neural patterns. And that's an incredibly important piece that stuck out to me there. So that, with what you just said, segues into into the next quote I actually want to read. And that is that if a learner cannot successfully spell words, they are less likely to succeed at formal learning. Additionally, skills and strategies for learning how to spell words are a very important part of the spelling process. Even if a learner is able to spell a word, if they do not understand the process, they cannot use this knowledge to spell unfamiliar words. And as in mathematics, it's not just about the correct answer that's important. It's very much about the working memory and understanding of how to achieve the correct answer that's vital to the cognitive process and deep understanding for future learning. So, yeah, in light of what you've just started to allude to, what does this mean and how is it achieved through the program?
Okay, so what that means is, so some of the interventions in the classroom is we teach children to memorize words. Hundreds and hundreds of words, and that has an unbearable load on the memory, which is why you see children struggling when they get to grade 4, because now the expectation for them to read is much higher. They have to interact with a lot more text. So if you're just memorizing stuff and that's your way of learning, you simply cannot be able to do that beyond certain number of words. Okay, interestingly, there's an I think it's a psychologist called Kilpatrick. He talks about what we call orthographic mapping. Orthographic mapping is a brain process through which children are able to store words, but store them as sight words. This is how it works. And I'm explaining the process. Children have got to know the sound of a word. So a word consists of 3 components. It is a sound, it is the spelling, which is the orthography, as well as meaning. So one of the things that we teach children, we teach them about what we call phonemes. In other words, speech sounds of English are called phonemes. And a phoneme, described differently, is the smallest unit of a spoken word which has an impact on meaning of a word. Let me demonstrate that. In the word cat, you can hear 3 distinct sounds. K-at. If I change the beginning sound, a phoneme, k in cat, and I change it to m, it becomes mat. So I've changed the meaning of the word, I've changed the spelling of the word, I've also changed the sound of the word. Okay? So when children learn speech sounds, okay, they can, that phonemic awareness, once they can identify the sounds in the word, you already tell them about the meaning, because some of the things that we do is when we change cat to mat, we also speak about it and we extend it. What do you know about a mat? What type of a mat have you come across? So we also develop vocabulary at the same time. But the point is, so when the children understand this process, they store that information and they never have to worry about decoding it again. So they store it and they see it next time. They know the spelling, they know the meaning, they know the sound. That's what is called orthographic mapping. So what we do is we teach children the 24 speech sounds of English, each individual sound, how it is spelled, how to break words up into different sounds. And once they understand the sounds, you can literally go to a child and say, on the Thrass chart, I want you to build a word. Just by isolating the sounds, build me that word. So an example, if I say block, and the child through phonemic awareness hears b, they hear l, they hear o, they hear k. They can literally go to the chart, select where the sound b is, where the sound l is, where the sound o is, where the sound k is. In fact, some teachers were using the pictures of the Thrass chart for children to build up words in remedial classes. So you take a picture of a fish to represent the sound f, there's a picture of a leg to represent the sound l, and so forth and so on. But the point is, that is the process. Identifying the sounds, knowing that a sound can be made by 1 letter, 2 letters, 3 letters. If I say a word like 8, the number 8, the sounds you hear there there's 2 sounds. But when you spell that word, you use 5 letters. So the first sound A is made by 4 letters, E-I-G-H, it's A. And then you hear the sound T, which is T. So there's 2 sounds. Once children understand that, I swear, they can read different words, unfamiliar words, even non-words they can read because they understand the sounds. So that is the process. And they take that process and they can apply it everywhere in their area of learning.
Fantastic.
Yeah, what's beautiful, Craig, is that, you know, when you listen to this and you hear the methodology behind it, you know, part of an online program that I'm currently doing as well is decoding how you speed read. And speed reading in itself requires you to use a lot more symbols and pictures to associate to words, so you can actually formulate a picture out of the information you're reading. And it also tends to want to decode that as a usual, obvious way of learning anything. We learn linear, you know, in a line format, which, you know, part of this program actually shows you that you know there's different ways of learning. And we know that also, you know, from neuroscience, we all have different learning strategies, you know.
Great.
So the fact that, you know, this kind of process challenges how we do the usual way of schooling is phenomenal, because, you know, in 10 years from now, who knows how that would have influenced how children use information and who they start becoming, because they are critically thinking, they are formalizing and formulating information completely differently because they understand it so much better than they did, right? Craig?
Yeah, so Mojaki, I want to jump into, you started alluding to 1 or 2 of the points earlier on. You obviously heard that we focused on the 10 reasons why small businesses fail last week. And I want to pick up on some of these points and get an understanding of how you found your way into next level learning and what the steps you take to ensure your ongoing success in businesses. So while we're not necessarily addressing all of the points in detail, let me just give a quick reference again to the article. It's 10 reasons why small businesses fail. And I found this on the lightspeedhq.com blog recently. And the 10 points are noted as follows: no business planning or poor planning, failure to understand customer behavior today, inventory mismanagement, unsustainable growth, lack of sales, trying to do it all, underestimating administrative tasks, refusal to pivot, lack of data, and lastly, poor management. And I'm sure, you know, some of these words jump out at you in your journey to date.
Indeed, Craig. When you were talking about these things the first time, I could not help but, you know, feel like I relate to most of the stuff that you mentioned. So because I took an existing business, so there were customers already, in a sense, for Thrass. So the challenge for me was to grow this business. When I took it, it was in decline. It was on average declining by 20% year on year, and I'm talking here purely revenue. So when I took it over, I took it actually off a very small base because it had been sort of going down. My challenge was to grow sales. So I did this. Fortunately, some departments were doing calls for submission of material for evaluation. So that opportunity became available, and I participated in that. Some of the material were selected, and that is part of the growth that led to that part of the initiative that led to the growth. But yes, certainly, lack of sales is key, because without sales, you can't do all these other things. You can't have customer service. You can't have support business, support functions. Sales is key. So it's important that you know the customers are that you're going to be able to serve. And if you're going to have growth, it needs to be a sustained growth. You need to improve year on year. This pandemic has been atrocious towards us because we had a significant decline revenue-wise compared to the previous year. Mm-hmm. So growth is important to be sustained but it has to be a growth that is such that you've got enough assets to carry it, because otherwise you may not be able to fulfill your customers' needs if you don't have enough assets to be able to fund the growth. Inventory management is important, particularly in our business. Our business does not have debtors except for government. So availability of inventory is important. People pay into our bank account and they want the product tomorrow. So it's important for us to be able to manage inventory. And so the way we do it, we're using Sage for accounting purposes, but also to manage our inventory. We look at critical levels of inventory. We look at our sales in the previous year and try to project what we may be able to sell in the following year. This year is going to be very interesting because we had this big Hollard ads, small business, Hollard Big Ads campaign for small business running for us through billboard. If you watch channel 403, they're beginning to flight our TV adverts now. Wow. So all of that stuff should have a serious stimulus on our business. So it will be interesting to see what happens. But fortunately, we have been able to raise funds to be able to buy additional inventory should the customers want it. But we are ready. We like to think that we are ready in terms of what we have seen as patterns. Yes, so inventory management is also very, very, very important.
Fantastic.
Mojaki, so I mean, taking over a business and wanting to do this, what sort of prompted you to take this leap? Because having a business, I'm always like, you should have your head read when you let's go open businesses. Like it's you gotta have brass iron kahunas, I would say. But what prompted you to do this? Like what was it for you?
Well, I think I had this deep burning desire to make a difference. And Thrass for me was a vehicle through which I could make that difference. Having been exposed, having gone through workshops, seeing the teachers' reactions, and the business was in decline. I mean, it was so the company that used to oversee Thrass in one of the Bidvest companies is called Silver Stationery Company. Now, if you're a stationery distributor, you don't necessarily understand what it is to become a publisher. So it was a misplaced sort of a product in that stable, because these guys are distributors of stationery, Stabilo Boss, Parker, all of that stuff. They are used to just distributing product, but not nurturing it in terms of let's train the teachers, let's develop the material, let's understand the processes of getting the product out there in the market. And so I had spent quite a bit of time while I was still part of the Bidvest, understanding those dynamics of publishing. But more importantly for me is, I forgot to mention this. In 2013, we ran a pilot in Free State where they gave us 9 worst performing schools, township schools. And these schools participated in a spelling bee competition. So out of those 9 participating schools, 3 learners became district finalists for spelling bee. And one of the learners won spelling bee competition in the province. I'm talking children that are seeing Thrass for the first time at grade 3 level. And interestingly, it was a boy. I mean, boys at that level are not really very focused, but a boy from the township won spelling bee competition. So those type of experiences is really what drove me to want to take over Thrass, because I understood the potential. I had seen it, I had participated in the pilot. So yes, the need to make a difference and understanding the potential of this methodology is really what made me realize I was wasting my time being part of a corporate. I'd spent 13 years at Bidvest, and fortunately, my boss and I had a good understanding that I can buy this methodology and we can part on very good terms. And I continue to interact with them. They've provided me funding to digitize the readers that we have, which is a fantastic process. I've seen those readers. So if you think about it, I said we've got 44 speech sounds of English. So for each sound, we have developed a reader that showcases that sound for grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. And now we're going further and digitizing and animating those readers. Mind-blowing stuff. So we are still, we are also evolving with the times. But to answer the question is the potential and really wanting to make a difference.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
Awesome.
So Mojaki, you've obviously been exposed to quite a bit in the corporate structures of your early career. You spent some good time at Alexander Forbes, state IT agency, and you referenced Bidvest quite a few times now. Phenomenal group.
Yep.
What have you learned and how have you adopted and adapted those learnings into running this particular business now?
Oh, Craig. Geez, those were interesting moments in my life. But when I look at each of those experiences, Alexander Forbes, I was fresh from university, full of youthful energy, very driven, wanted to do things. But I learned while I was at Alexander Forbes that it was important to have the right attitude. It was important to be humble and to be prepared to learn from others. And so I got into an environment with a teaching degree, and I became a portfolio administrator and eventually became a business developer. And it was all because I was taught to have a good attitude and that no job was too big or too small to do. If you get given a task, you do it well to the best of your ability. State IT agency, once again over there, I was into contracts management with no prior knowledge of contracts management, but I went in there willing to learn from others with the right attitude. And when you got the right attitude, people are able to help you. People want to interact with you. Your energy is different. And being at Bidvest as well, the same thing. There was a time when I was virtually running Thrass as my business. I was picking up boxes. Remember, I was a commercial director, fairly a divisional director. I would pack the boxes on my own, not ask anybody, do everything. So it's important to have a good attitude as a person, be always willing to learn and work with others. And yes, here I am, I'm applying the same thing. I go out, I interact with people, I'm still picking up boxes for myself, I'm doing this for myself, but it's important to have, a good attitude, interact with people very well, and things, business is about relationships. And the reason why I'm still able to go back to Bidvest is about all those relationships that I've built over the years. I did not burn my bridges. People still want to listen to me if I go back there. So for me, it's important to have the right attitude. And now that I'm managing a business of my own, it's important that the people that I bring into this business have got a good attitude. They are self-starters, and they can help me where I've got weaknesses. I'm terrible when it comes to admin. It's important for me to have people who are good at administration so that I can go out there and market and write articles if I've got an opportunity to do so. That's my strength. So understanding your strengths, delegating. I mean, if you look at the Bidvest model, you don't have a head office dictating to the operations what they need to do. So you delegate everything to people who can do what they know, and you focus on what you need to focus on. So I've learned that at Bidvest, and that's really my motto as well. Delegate stuff that you're not good at and focus on your strengths.
Fantastic.
Mojaki, so I know we're steadily running out of time here, but I want to quickly just touch on the 10 reasons for why small businesses fail. And I'm intrigued to understand how do you reach, or how did you research on the understanding of consumer behavior today, and what access to data and insights you have to understand your consumers better?
Kevin, I must say, when you are in a business and you're trying to get it off the ground, there are certain things that you focus on, and those are the ones that consume your energy. So my market is very simple. I sell to teachers, And the way they buy material is they need to be exposed to it. They need to see it. They need to assess it, understand, get a feel for it, and then they will buy it. But even though teachers are my primary market, there is a market called parents out there, SGBs, that I need to serve. So it's been kind of difficult trying to sort of get in a big way into those spaces. I am also not good when it comes to social media marketing. And sadly, the people that I've tried to bring on board to help me, I don't find them very, very responsive when it comes to that. But the point is, I think social media marketing, digital marketing is one way I could probably expose myself and also gather insights from people. My Facebook page was hacked not so long ago after the Hollard campaign was launched. People overtook my Thrass Facebook page. And through that, I was beginning to have followers. I had about 500 people that I could talk to that can share their experiences. So it's just a matter of finding the right platform, if I were to say, to be able to interact with people. And I was thinking maybe Twitter is one of them, but I suck when it comes to that. And I will get people who can help me with regard to that, yes. So it's not something that I have focused on heavily, purely because, we've got customers, and my idea was, okay, let me write advertorials in the ISASA magazine, Independent Schools Associations magazine. I write advertorials, and that's how people get to hear about me. But it's still largely school/teacher focused market. So I still need to, in a big way, and I'm hoping Hollard Big Ads will also sort of create curiosity around what Thrass is all about, and people will come visit our website. But yes, I haven't found a way of gleaning insights insofar as, the big parent market is concerned.
Yeah, alrighty.
Mojaki, closing question from my side. What are the most important standout points of advice that you can give any aspiring young entrepreneur or small business owner?
Oh, Craig, you mentioned it when you spoke about those challenges that face small businesses. I think a business plan is paramount for two reasons. A business plan enables you to approach possible funders who can fund your business if you've got a good business plan. But also a business plan serves as a roadmap to check yourself, to see if you're achieving what you set yourself to achieve. So by far, I think a business plan is important, because in the business plan, you would know whether you're tracking your sales, you know what level of expenses you should be incurring in running the business. So it sort of calibrates your progress as you run the business. So by far, I think business plan is important. And as an entrepreneur, this is a very lonely road to travel. Sometimes it's important to maybe have a mentor, to build networks of similar people. As a matter of fact, I belong to what we call PASA, Publishers Association of South Africa. We are driving a summit by SMMEs where we are going to all come together, the SMMEs that participate in education, to explore ways we can work together, either for promotions, marketing, and distribution, because you find that we've got the same customer, but we use multiple vehicles to go serve the same customer. So we're going to explore ways in which we can collaborate, because this COVID has had a devastating effects on our small businesses. So for us is to come together and explore ways in which we can work. So yes, Craig, the answer is business plan. I think mentorship is important, and to be able to have a network of like-minded individuals is also very, very helpful.
Oh, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
It's Mojaki Finger, managing director from Next Level Learning. Guys, Mojaki, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been such a pleasure to have your insights and learn about your business. And if we can help it, guys, go and check it out. Next Level Learning, and all the links and everything that we need to share will be in our description box below. But thank you for making some time for us today.
Oh, Kevin and Craig, thank you so much, gentlemen, for affording me this opportunity. I really, really appreciate it. Just as a parting shot, please, I'd rather people go visit the website Thrass Africa. Next Level Learning, remember, should be in the background, but Thrass Africa is our website, and they can find all the information there. And once again, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the support. And yes, we will definitely talk again.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. And remember, we're just a phone call away, Mojaki, for continuing the conversation, wanting a bit of advice, whatever it may be. This is hopefully the beginning of a long relationship with you, young man. Seriously.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Thanks so much, Mojaki.
Cheers.
Chat soon,
So, Craig, as we close today's conversation, just do you want to add some of our last bit of tips and tricks for our listeners from today's chat?
Yeah, Kevin, for me, there's a couple of beautiful things that stand out here. Have the right attitude, be humble, show humility, be prepared to learn from others, but most importantly, be a self-starter. And business is about relationships. And the last 3 points that Mojaki mentioned, a business plan is paramount. It serves as a roadmap. It calibrates your progress and helps you run the business. Find a mentor and always ensure that you have a network of like-minded individuals around you.
Yeah, and it's when you hear someone who's actually started out and did this and made it happen and going to the next level, you kind of go, that's the aim. But you can see he's got his ducks in a row, and he I mean, just a key point that he mentions about building good relationships. It's so significant. Like, even though he was in a business that now he's left and can go back to that same network and still have a conversation and have support from them. Such significant points. But Craig, that's a wrap for our conversation today. What are we doing next week?
Yeah, Kevin, there's a lot of conversation around the hot topic of third-party cookies not being supported across most of the browsers on the internet from 2022. So I want to talk about that. Plus, there's a lot of activity with the large media groups and what they're doing to actually stay relevant, particularly on the back of the challenges of third-party cookie. And what are they doing to differentiate themselves? So, for instance, Starcom has just claimed an industry milestone through the supposed launch of the first automated media booking bot. But for me, I find that quite interesting, particularly on the back of the ongoing conversation around the fraudulent use of bots in media buying. So I think they're going to find some interesting points to uncover in